The following is a video of the Amateur Astronomers Association of Princeton. For more information about the organization and its programs, visit www.princetonastronomy.org. We're here with AAAP member Bill Murray in central New Jersey with his beautiful home observatory. Bill, maybe walk us through your equipment, your telescope, what you have set up here.
Thank you, Rich. Well, as you can see behind me, my largest piece of equipment is my observatory itself. It's a Technical Innovations HD6 home dome, domed observatory, 6-foot diameter dome, and inside it is my telescope and my mount. Over the years, I've owned a large number of different telescopes, and I finally got to the point where back 70 years ago, Winston Churchill's physician, Lord Moran, was talking about Churchill, and he said Winston had very simple taste. He liked the best of everything. And so I decided not to spare any financial considerations and buy what I consider to be the best telescope and the best mount on the market. So inside my observatory, I have an Astrophysics 130 millimeter Gran Turismo apochromatic refractor, and it's sitting on an Astrophysics Mach 1 go-to mount, a very fine go-to mount. And my plan, I've had this observatory for about 10 years. It is relatively small for one person, and I've wanted for a number of years to completely automate everything in my observatory, so that I could operate it from inside my house. That's a bit of a technical challenge to do, because you have to think about all the things that you do when you operate a telescope. For instance, you have to set up the telescope, polar align it. Okay, if you have an observatory set up, you do that once and then don't do it again. But when you're operating the telescope has to accurately point at the object that you want it to. The object has to fit within the camera field of view. You have to be able to focus the telescope. And then you have to be able to have the dome, which is a separate piece of equipment, move to where the telescope position is. So all those number of different things have to be controlled, and since you're not physically at the telescope, they have to be controlled remotely. So the project I've been undertaking for more than a year now is to buy all the equipment and make sure that I can control everything and all the processes from inside my house.
Okay, we're now in the observatory, Bill. Maybe tell us about some of the equipment you've introduced and added to your rig here so that you can do observing in a fully automated fashion.
Okay, so probably the most obvious piece of equipment, something many amateur astronomers may not have seen, is right up here. That's an Alnitak flip mask. It's used to focus the telescope. So it acts as a door mechanism. It can be controlled by computer to either close over the objective of the telescope or open up so the telescope has free view of the sky. But as you can see, there's a grid pattern on the mask, and what that does is it creates a diffraction pattern of a star that makes it very easy to manually focus the telescope. So I can be sitting at my computer and taking a look at an image and say the image is a little bit soft, it needs to get refocused. I can flip the mask in front of the objective of the telescope, refocus the telescope. The focuser is also automated and can be controlled by the computer until the focus is very close to being perfect, and then flip the mask out of the way and continue. So that removes the task of actually manually focusing the telescope, so it can be all done remotely. Another thing that I've instituted is there's a Kendrick powered hub on top of the telescope tube. So one of the major drawbacks to trying to have a lot of electronic equipment attached to your telescope is there are cables all over the place. And you need to be able to have a management system for that. So what the powered hub does is it allows me to take all the equipment that is actually connected to the telescope tube, and that's the camera. Eventually there's going to be a webcam as well, the focuser, the flip mask, and have them all connected to that powered hub, which goes to the computer by one cable. And one of the nice things about the astrophysics mount is it's designed so that you can take any cables from the telescope tube, and instead of having them hanging around the mount where they could get caught up when the telescope moves around, they actually run through the mount and come out on the bottom so that they never get tangled up. So that was another consideration that I took into account when I actually bought the mount.
So Bill, it looks like you've made quite a bit of progress here. Are there any other critical pieces of equipment that you've added recently?
So one of the main pieces of equipment that took up all my summer last year installing actually doesn't have to do with the telescope at all. When you buy the dome from Technical Innovations, it's not motorized. It's relatively light, so you can push it around by hand, but of course if you're interested in automating an observatory, you can't do that if you're not there. So I had to motorize the dome and actually install computer software that controls the dome and the telescope, so that when the telescope moves to a certain position in the sky, the dome knows where the telescope is and can turn the dome around to match the telescope position. And I'm still working out some bugs in that, but the dome is running on the motors, and I can control it by computer.
Bill, it looks like you made a tremendous amount of progress on the dome and automating it. What's the future? What additional equipment are you looking to add? What do you need to actually complete your objective here and get this thing fully automated?
So the observatory itself is, I would say, about 95% complete. As I said, I'm still trying to work out a few bugs with syncing the dome and the telescope together. But once that's done, I should be able to completely control from the computer that's in the observatory the dome, the telescope, the focuser, the camera, and possibly a webcam as well. And once that's done, someone who is sitting in the observatory could simply just sit at the computer and operate all of the equipment. But that's not exactly what I want to do. So the next step is I want to be able to connect over my local area network here in my house to the computer that's up in my den, and have that talk to this computer using PC Anywhere or remote login. And once that's done, I should be able to control everything in the observatory from that computer in my house the same way as I would do if I was sitting in the observatory. And that's the final step. Once I can do that, I can come out here if it's the middle of winter and it's 20 degrees and I don't feel like sitting out and observing. I can come out and open up the observatory, turn on the equipment, make sure everything is connected, go into my house and sit in my nice warm den at my computer and do astronomy all night long.
Bill, you mentioned EAA and video astronomy. Any suggestions for those looking to get started in EAA?
So my advice for someone who's interested in video astronomy is the same advice that I would give to someone for any type of astroimaging, and that is don't skimp on the mount for your telescope. You need a telescope that will accurately point where you want it to in the sky, and then once it's there, accurately track that object. If you have a telescope that will do that, you don't have to spend a whole lot on a fine camera in order to do a lot of imaging. But if you have a mount that doesn't work, you're going to be extremely frustrated trying to do any type of imaging.
Well, Bill, thanks very much. We look forward to following the progress with your observatory and seeing some of your images with the EAA. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Rich. I enjoyed it.
This has been an interview with Bill Murray, a member of the Amateur Astronomers Association of Princeton, and produced by fellow member Rich Sherman. Founded in 1962, the Amateur Astronomers Association of Princeton is a non-profit organization that promotes a wide range of astronomy-related activities, including solar, planetary and deep sky observing, astrophotography, star parties, lectures, and education. The group owns and operates its observatory at Washington Crossing State Park in New Jersey. For more information about the club and its outreach activities, please visit www.princetonastronomy.org.